Hi, everyone, and welcome to UGA Media Network Who's Who Interviews. I'm your host, Miss Koko Bowden, and I got to tell y'all, it feels good to be back here on our 14th season. Yes, our 14th season and 7 years in the making. Amen. All right, so I got a great guest that's on the line with me. But before I get into who she is, I'd just like to say, in 2021, with the pandemic and the rest of life stresses, temptation to cope and self-medicate is greater than ever before. And some people are turning to a familiar demon here in North Carolina and around the world. But behind the COVID-19 deaths, there's another story. That's that we have been drastically seeing increasing deaths from overdoses. So today, I have a special guest with me to talk about her book a little bit, and it's called I Can Do This. She's a fresh new author and drug abuse advocate, and her name is Shelette Ingram. So welcome to Who's Who Interviews, Angela.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Amen.
So,
all right, so you can you hear me clearly?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you are a new author, a drug abuse survivor yourself, /advocate, your daughter, your mother, your sister, and most of all, you're a woman of God. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how we got to this point in your life?
Yes, well, like you said, I'm Shelette Ingram, and I was born and raised in Montgomery County. I'm a single mother of one. And when my father passed in 2010, and I turned to drugs during that time, then I really wasn't aware of what I was doing. That was my way of coping with, his death and just trying to hide behind the pain and hurt and everything that I was going through. And so years went by, and it just got the usage of the drug, it increased. And so my choice of drug at that time was cocaine. And, of course, the alcohol, the cigarettes, I was just all over the place. And so for years, that's something that I dealt with. And so, it got to the point where it wasn't just the passing of my father anymore. It was just dealing with other issues piling on top of each other. So, in other words, it was an excuse after an excuse as to why I continued to do what I did, which was, abuse drugs. And so it came a point in my life in 2016 where I was tired and I needed help. And of course, according to myself, I was okay, I was functional, but at the end of the day, what I was doing to myself and as well as others, it wasn't good. So I reached out for help. I took some classes at True Worship Ministries, and my support system was great. And so it got me to the point where I was asked a question: if I could teach a course on anything, like, what would it be? So my first response was how to be free from drugs. Why not? And, at first I didn't think nothing, and then, days went by, weeks went by. I was asked to write my book on how to be free from drugs. And so with that being said, over the years that I did drugs, I would always write, whether it was a word or a couple of sentences, a paragraph. I always wrote down things that I would be thinking of how I didn't want to be high no more or just wanted to be a better person. So with that being said, I put everything together and I released my book, I Can Do This, How to Be Free from Drugs, on September the 1st, 2021 of this year. And so the purpose behind my book is I want to lead individuals to victory by beating up that sick addiction. I just need the world to know, like, it's possible. And like, what worked for me may not work for the next, but I do know this 100% that it is possible for change, and it's much needed. In other words, I wouldn't be here today if I hadn't mastered the addiction, being an overcomer, and that's the whole purpose behind my book. I need everyone to know, like, there's still hope. You have time to get it right. You have time to become a better you. Recovery is like getting authority over your life. You're getting your power back, and it's much needed, and it's never too late. And I didn't do it alone. It took God himself. And it's like I'm thankful every day, and I want to be able to reach other individuals who are struggling or dealing with drug abuse, because I need them to know they're not alone. And, you know, once you make that decision, everything has to shift. And I didn't change overnight, and it wasn't easy, but at the end of the day, it was worth it, because I know who I am now. And, again, I want to be able to give back, like so important to me, as to, you know, taking that step to recovery and just changing your life around. And so that's basically what my book is about, and I talk about my story. But the main thing, like I said, the purpose behind this book, I want to lead them to victory, because I myself, I had to do what was necessary and still be uncomfortable versus, you know, just dibbling and dabbling, doing the unnecessary and still be uncomfortable. With that being said, I had to recognize my own cycles so I can make change. So therefore, that's where the book comes into play. And, you know, it just encourages you on, you know, how you have to admit it, you know, being held accountable, and, you know, just what is your story. And the thing is, you can do this, because at the end of the day, you're not alone, and it's very much needed for change. And like I said, I want to lead everyone to victory who's out there struggling or just dealing with substance abuse. Whatever the situation may be, they need to know that it's possible, and change is it can happen. Anyone can change, and it's there. It's there, and you cannot go wrong, because when you're making the decision to change, you're basically, again, you're taking authority over your life. It's a scary thing to accept the change, because, you know, you've been so paralyzed for so many years. You know, you done got comfortable being poor in that situation. You're used to the drugs. You're used to not having, or you're just paralyzed and you're stuck in one spot. And again, my book is to you know, correct that behavior for change. And so you can see on the other side that it's good. And of course it's going to be scary, like I said, but hey, you may say it's the environment, but drugs is everywhere. But if you want to change, you have that willpower to do it. I believe in you, and you can believe in yourself, and that's why my whole thing is I can do this. And, you know, when you won't know, it's a scary thing. When you take that step to change, you don't know what's on the other side, but I trust you, and you got to trust the process. You got to endure to the end, and that's basically what my book is about.
Awesome. Well, let me ask you this. Okay, because we learn how to cope from our home, our families. We also, when we have a story to tell, it comes from types of relationships. It comes from our environment. It comes from traumas in our life, things that we have seen others do. What was the history of drug abuse within your family system that led you to choose drugs in the first place? Because, you know, people, they don't just do things because it's there. There's a history somewhere, or somebody somewhere in your family, your friends, somebody somewhere in your environment, you know. So what is the history with that?
I was introduced to it in 2002. So, you know, I didn't think nothing else about it. And so, again, 2002 to 2010, that's 8 years. So, hey, I tried it again. I backtracked. And so, with that being said, again, I remember me being introduced to it. So, again, and then, you know, I was in the environment with different individuals, but I blamed no one, because it was my decision to partake in that activity. But with that being said, yeah, it was in the environment. And so, like I said, 8 years that went by. I was introduced in 2002. And so, yeah, I took it upon myself to make that decision. And it just went from there. I mastered myself with that drug, as you would say, but I wasn't mastering it in the correct way, because I was harming myself. And so that's how it all started with me. Yeah, I was introduced to it, but I took it upon myself. When my father passed, I just, hey, let me go. I'm going to try this again. And then it made me feel numb. At those times, I would be numb. I didn't have no feeling, but at the same time, in my mind, I felt important. I felt beautiful. I could have took on the world, but at the same time, on another side, I was dangerous. And so, like, it got to the point where it became my crutch. So that's how it all really started, but it ended up as, okay, I'm just doing this just because, to take my feeling away at the moment.
Right. So did drugs have an influence over your relationship with people? How did that work out?
Majority of the people that I dealt with, some knew, but they didn't judge me. The ones that didn't know, because as a user with me, I knew when to open my mouth and when not to open my mouth, because you just don't tell everybody your business. And that was my mindset at the time, because I had a trust issue. During those years, I had a trust issue. So, like I said, I know when to open my mouth and when not to. So, and if they had an issue, or if it was one, I wasn't aware, because no one treated me no different.
That's amazing. That's good right there. That that they still love you for who you were. In your book, now I brought the book on Amazon. By the way, those of you that are listening, if you want to buy the book, it's on Amazon right now. You can go get it and then come back and listen to the rest of the interview. But it's on Amazon, and it's called I Can Do This. That's what it's called. I Can Do This. Okay, so in your book. Now, I'm going to tell y'all, this is a short read, so there's no excuse for you saying I don't have time or anything. It's very convenient to read. And I honestly think that this book will go good in some of the therapist offices. Maybe therapists can use this book as a guide, as a tool, to help with their clients, or maybe like your Sunday school teacher. Sometimes we have, like she said, the church was what helped her to get herself together, and sometimes everybody in the church is not aware of what drugs can do to a person, so they don't know how to respond to a person. But in the book, I was reading, and I'm just going to give this little part right here. In your book, you call your drug of choice Christina. Why did you name your drug?
Well, for one, that was the code name. Like, Christina was very active in my life during those years, and that's the name that I gave her. Cocaine, and I just switched it around to Christina. That was the name that she had, and Christina was very dangerous. And,
wow.
That was just the name that I gave her. Many can relate and some can't, because, again, everybody doesn't have the mindset when it comes to drugs. They don't understand sometimes. And so, me being who I was, in my mind, if you say Christina, they just think you're talking about a female, So that was my whole mindset. Like, when I'm talking to someone, if they had to be out in public, hey, have you seen Christina? And that was the whole ordeal behind that. Like, that was who I was asking for.
Right. So when I'm so sorry about that. I thought I had it turned off. But when you started doing drugs, and at what point did you realize that this drug is destroying my life?
Like I said, it was back in 2016. I was just tired, and I wanted more for myself. Like I said, in my mind, I was functional. My daughter didn't lack for anything, but the thing is, it was not right. And so it came a point, like I said, I was tired. And like I stated, in my book, and during those moments, I always prayed and all that. And I just knew when it got time for me to, get my life together, I knew during those moments God was watching over me during those times. Somebody, if not the whole community, was praying for me, and it was much needed. And I had to be delivered and be free, because it comes to a point in your life, it's either you want to do right or you don't. But when you know better, you do better.
Right. Was it easy for you to ask for help, or was you just seeked out?
Well, actually, like I said, in 2016, that's when I came to my senses. I took some classes in 2018. That's when, because in between from 16 to 18, I was still struggling. I will admit, I was still struggling. It was to me, it was getting worse. So when I came in contact with this lady, who now is my spiritual mother, she was my backbone at that time. She stayed on me, and then she was understanding me. And so then that's when I began to open up, and it's like, okay, I need help. And so I wasn't judged, and that was a plus for me, and I felt the love. But the support was 110% because, it made me see clearer. I had a better vision about life itself, but at the same time, in the midst of it all, God was the head man. Like he was in the midst of all of it, and that's something that I'm thankful for every day, and because it wasn't easy. Because, in my
Amen.
mind, I'm like, okay, what am I going to do when it's time to go, or, and it's just having that, being held accountable, it makes a big difference. But that support system, it goes a long way.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. How important is it to have that support system?
It's very important because, everybody's on different levels, and myself, I was like, I felt like, I can't do this. I got to make sure somebody know what I'm doing, or, I don't want to go home yet. When I go home, I want to go home and go to sleep, versus sometimes I would be afraid to just get away from my support system because I was going to be afraid that I was going to relapse because I would get bored, which that goes back to it's just an excuse, and it's a mind thing. And addiction can really, it can paralyze the mind, and I had moments like that often, but it came to a point where I was able to stand and say, I'm a big girl now. It's maturity. I done grew. And so, again, but the support system is a plus. When you got someone in your corner where you can call on any time of the night, day, don't matter, and they're willing to listen, it reassures you that there's still hope. You're going to make it.
Right. And, as you were saying, you got bored. Sometimes you were getting bored. That goes back to that first question that I had asked about the family system, because how we do things is how we are learned. That's how we were taught to do things. If we saw someone in our family, if this is what they did when they were born, then what do you think we're going to do when we get older? We're going to do the same thing that we see them doing. But once you start seeking out help, you learn how to unlearn those behaviors and create new ones. And that's why I like this book so much, is because it gives you details of how you can go into your life and not just sit there and take where you have been at in the past, but correct those behaviors and come to a point of agreement, with God, where you say, I want my healing. I'm getting up for my healing. Now, becoming drug-free, it is a faith battle. You will be tested, you will be tried, but with God, you can do the impossible. How were some of the ways that you were tested and tried during this time, that you're coming off in drugs and you're in recovery?
Well, the thing is, I had to learn myself to be committed, consistent, and considerate. Without them 3 C's, I wouldn't be where I am now. Because, again, that allowed me to master the addiction and, me just be an example for the next person, because without that, I wouldn't be where I am today. And it goes back to when I said I had to do what was necessary. I had to take responsibility for my own actions. And there were times where, if I was in a position where I was tempted, that was a sign for me to not even be in that position, if that makes sense. In other words, if you in the right place at the right time, you're not going to come across something like that. You're not going to have time to think about a relapse, or you just want to go get high. If you're in the right place at the right time and you're doing what you're supposed to do and minding your business, it's not even going to matter. Now, it can be hard, but if you got to be committed, consistent, and considerate with it, and you're going to be just fine.
Amen. So how is recovery for you now?
It's great. Recovery is life. It's God. It's so much. I love it.
Amen.
I know who I am. I know who I am.
And that makes a big difference right there. When you know who you are, you can walk in the face of people and let them know, hey, the things that used to shame me, they don't shame me no more. The things I used to do, I ain't got to worry about being condemned no more, because I have a Father who cares for me. You don't have to worry about those things anymore. And I wish we had more people that, were taught more about it, because, some people may think that recovery is easy, but it is a day-to-day battle. It's a faith battle, and without God, it is hard to go through those days, and that's why we see a lot of people relapse, because they'll get out here and think it's easy and, oh, I don't need this, I don't need that, or I don't need my support system. But you really need people in your life that are godly. You need a village. You need a godly village. The same way you have to raise a child up and it takes a lot of people to help raise that child, it's the same way you have to recover and bring yourself back to life is with those godly people in your life. So if you had an opportunity to tell someone today that may be listening that's on drugs and, straggling the fence, 1 minute they're off, next minute they're on, what would you encourage them with today?
One of the questions I would put out there in the forefront would be, I would ask the individual, what would it take for you to take the road to recovery, and explain to them how recovery is taking the limits off. I mean, it's no boundaries. And, again, what would it take? And I will go from there with their answer, because sometimes it takes a little motivation for them to, to respond. And I will be willing to take it every step of the way, because that's the thing. I can do this. I'm not going to, they're not alone. I got to let them know they're not alone. And if I can do it, they can do the same thing too.
That's right. And I got to get this question in before I let you go. How did you come up with that title?
I can do this, how to be free from drugs?
Yes. The part that says I can do this.
That was something I used to tell myself over the years as well. I just, didn't really stick to me. But once again, when I was committed, consistent, and considerate, it played all the way out, because I can do this. And I'm at a place in my life now, I'm reminded every day, I can do this. And I need the world to know, no matter what you're going through, what you're struggling with, you got to tell yourself every day, I can do this. Because it's just not about addiction. It's any life situations that you're dealing with in life itself. At the end of the day, you need to know that you can do this. It may be hard, but it's worth it.
That's so true. Yeah. Are you planning a book tour anytime soon?
No, I have some events coming up that on the 25th, September 25th, I will be at Run for Recovery in Carthage. I will have a table set up with some of my books. I have a speaking engagement on September the 28th with Mother Stan in Sanford at 6:30 p.m., and I will be speaking to the mothers there. So as far as a book tour, not right now, but I'm sure it's coming up in the future. And I'm currently working on a second book as we speak. So.
Congratulations already. Okay, so how can people contact you? What's your social media? How can they get in contact with you?
Well, I have Facebook up under Shelette Ingram. That's my Facebook page. And also I can be contacted with my other page, which is Angela Ingram. So you can contact me through Messenger, and my number's on there as well. However you need to reach me is out there. I'm on Facebook, like I said, Angela Ingram and Shelette Ingram.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to be a part of UGA Media Network, Who's Who Interviews. And I just want to encourage all of you that are listening, go out and get the book. It's on Amazon. It's out right now. Go get it. Go get it. It's worth it. I'm telling you, I got this book. I read it, and I will be teaching this with my group of women in Kiva. Y'all know the Kiva podcast comes out every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I will be having that book on there, just reading little clips here and there, basically just encouraging women to get the book. But I want to encourage all of you to get the book yourself, have your own personal copy, get it for a friend or family member, and again, you can get that on Amazon. And again, thank you so much, Ms. Ingram, for taking your time to be with me right here on Who's Who Interviews.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.